You now know about this gruesome video released from ISIS of this caged young Jordanian fighter pilot set on fire and burned alive. It turns out he may have been held for release for more than a month, but the timeline is a little tricky here as far as when he was actually murdered. ISIS captured the Jordanian military pilot on December 24th after his F-16 crashed in Syria. Authorities in Jordan now say they believe he was killed as early as January 3rd. That was weeks before ISIS and Jordan both seemed to publicly mull a possible prisoner swap, or at least that's what Jordan was hoping. They wanted that proof of life and never got it, and now we know why. Then just yesterday, the gruesome video of this killing became public. Let me bring in counterterrorism expert David Gartenstein-Ross. David, great to have you on. Let me begin with, as much as you can share, you did have an intel conversation last night with a source talking about, when Mohammed alKasaspo would have been murdered, and no one still definitively knows, correct?
Right, and the thing that really caught my attention is there was a series of tweets that came out in early January by someone who was in Raqqa, who had heard ISIS guys talking about how Kasaspe was killed, and there were rumors at the time that he was burned alive, which seems to be very definitive proof that he had actually been killed long before. But the timeline isn't exactly that clear. Those tweets, which have gotten attention, including on CNN, are reliable, but that could have been a trial balloon, for example. They could have had wrong information that was designed kind of as a psyops campaign against Jordan. We don't know the answers yet, I don't think.
What about this notion that King Abdullah of Jordan, incredibly intelligent man, must have known at some point, as Jordan tried to negotiate with ISIS and saying, all right, we'll give you back this Iraqi failed suicide bomber if you give us our Jordanian pilot, would have known all along, at that point that the pilot was dead. Instead, making it public, this willingness to do this swap. How do you think that the king is playing this, and how might that help him persuade his people that they really need to take the fight to ISIS?
Well, I think that calling their bluff is giving a little bit too much credit to the king, given that there was never actually an agreement in terms. Right? True. ISIS had said two things. They said that they would release Kenji Goto, who is the Japanese hostage, and they also said that they would kill Kasaspe if Sajida al-Rishawi wasn't released. But there was never an agreement in terms, because Jordan said that they would release Sajida al-Rishawi only if Kasaspe, the pilot, would be released. So they were talking past each other. That being said, if indeed Kasaspe was killed, the Jordanians, if he was killed far in advance, then the Jordanians definitely would have had a line in on that. But again, I'd caution that right now the time frame isn't exactly clear. I think that we'll know more at some point in the not too distant future.
David, I was talking to Ali Soufan on the show last hour. Wrote an incredible book, knows very much about Al-Qaeda, written about it, former FBI agent, and he was saying to me, this burning alive of this young man is clearly ISIS showing the consequence of what happens in an airstrike by burning those below, and then they threw rubble on this man in the cage. Just your read on that assessment.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it also is the air campaign has been extraordinarily effective against ISIS, much more so than often we realize because of the amount of attrition it's inflicted, including on their logistics. And in part, I think that they were taking out their frustration with the air campaign on Kasaspe. He was extraordinarily poorly treated, even for an ISIS prisoner. They had really inflicted a lot of damage on him long before they so brutally burned him alive.
Do you think they're showing other hostages the video of what they did to him?
I think that's likely. ISIS likes to inflict maximum humiliation on their captives. I mean, that's what they're about. I mean, they really are an organization that is devoted to terrorizing. Their videos of the beheadings, and now this video, are meant to show people who, in other situations, were successful, were powerful, being humiliated, being, the maximum damage being inflicted upon them, and then being slaughtered in the worst ways possible. So I imagine that as a tool of making them psychologically be beat down and see all the very disgusting things ISIS could do to them, I think the odds are very high that they're showing this to other captives.
David Gartenstein-Ross, thank you.
Thank you.